Hey up guys, so it is December, which means we are officially in Oscar season now. In the past few months, I've also been to the London Film Festival and I've seen some of the more highly anticipated titles like Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, Pinocchio, She Said, and Till. We've also got the winners for a few awards bodies like the Gothams and the New York Film Critics Group, and we've also got the Indie Spirit noms as well. We've got our first reactions to Babylon, no reviews just yet, but we've got reactions, and nobody's seen Avatar: The Way of Water yet. But I feel like I've seen enough to justify making another Oscar predictions video. That's right, another one! Gonna be going through all the categories, minus the shorts, and giving you my updated predictions, as well as some discussion on the developments of each category. Also, I'm gonna be answering some of your questions that you guys sent me on Twitter. Thank you to everybody that tweeted in with your questions. Sadly, I won't be answering all of them because this video will go on forever. But if you want to ask me an Oscars-related question for my next Oscar predictions video, pop it in the comments section, or you can tweet me. All that information is in the video description down below. Remember to like and get involved in the comment section down below and give me your hot takes on this year's Oscars race, and if you agree or disagree with my predictions. Alright, let's jump right into it. Let's kick things off with Best Actress. I still feel like we have 3 locks for this category: Michelle Yeoh, Danielle Deadwyler, and Cate Blanchett. And any one of those 3 could become a front runner once we get a few more wins from the precursors. But as of now, it feels like Cate Blanchett might have a slight lead. She has won the Volpe Cup and she won Best Actress at the New York Film Critics Group, which is why I've got Cate Blanchett as my number 1 at the moment, but I'm not married to her just yet. It's still very early. We could see the wind blow in a different direction. Michelle Yeoh could still win this. Like, A24 are having a fantastic campaign for Everything Everywhere All at Once. It's a film that has very much staked its claim in the zeitgeist, and it is a little bit of a wishful pick thinking Michelle Yeoh could win for a goofy kung fu movie, but I still think it could happen. We just need to see if all this speculation from the past year of her performance translating into an awards season darling is legit. Like, it can happen, but it also might just be a fantasy that we've all bought into. Yeah, she might be the people's pick, but is she the industry's? Are we all just living in a dream world? We may have to accept the fact that Michelle Yeoh might only be Academy Award nominee Michelle Yeoh for Everything Everywhere All at Once, and that's it. She's still my personal pick to win. I would love to see it happen for Michelle Yeoh. Her performance as Evelyn in Everything Everywhere All at Once is the combination of a long, dedicated, impressive, and sometimes undervalued career. And we've never had an Asian Best Actress winner before, and only one previous Asian nominee with Merle Oberon for The Dark Angel in 1935. One Asian Best Actress nominee in 94 years of Academy history. It's kind of shameful, really. There's definitely a path for Michelle Yeoh to win, but is the goofiness of the Daniels high-flying existential comedic family drama going to be too out there for some Academy voters? But yeah, this is a total showcase performance for Michelle Yeoh. She gets to demonstrate all of her skills in this film: her comedic timing, her emotional range, her singing ability, the stunts and choreography. To be honest, performances don't get much more versatile than this. And it's quite likely the defining role of her career, and it would be so nice to see her win her first Oscar for a career-defining role, then give Cate Blanchett her 3rd one, even though I would say Tar is probably one of her career-defining roles as well. But she's already got 2. Can Michelle Yeoh just have 1? But if Cate Blanchett does win, and there's a very good chance she will, it's not like it's undeserving. It is a tour de force performance from Cate Blanchett. Also, Danielle Deadwyler is doing pretty well at the moment. She actually just won the Best Leading Performance at the Gotham Awards, actually beating Cate Blanchett. And the thing with Danielle Deadwyler's performance is that it feels more like a traditional pick for Best Actress. Like, she's playing a real-life person with grand, skillful displays of emotion, with plenty of impassioned Oscar clip, tear-inducing speeches. My concern with Danielle Deadwyler, though, is Till's horrific content and dark subject matter might be a little bit off-putting to some voters. They might not give it the time of day. They might not even watch it. Also, as I said in my review for Till, Danielle Deadwyler is the only exceptional thing in a pretty average movie. But that's not to say that she can't still win it, because we've had plenty of recent Best Actress winners who were the only exceptional thing in a very average movie, like Meryl Streep in The Iron Lady, Renee Zellweger in Judy, and just last year, Jessica Chastain in The Eyes of Tammy Faye. But again, the caliber of Danielle Deadwyler's performance is so strong. All they really need to do is show voters that clip of her in the courtroom and she'd be a shoo-in. As for Cate Blanchett, some people are saying that because she already has 2 acting Oscars, that the Academy won't feel as inclined to give it to her. And to that I say, well, what about Frances McDormand? She was a 2-time Oscar winner and a recent winner with 3 Billboards before she went on to win for Nomadland, so Cate Blanchett can easily do the same. We've had our first reactions to Babylon, and it's very mixed. Opinions as to who will get an acting nomination for this film are all over the place. Even Margot Robbie herself. Like, it's a very big performance, but some people are saying it's a bit one note and a bit scenery chewy. I haven't seen it yet, so it's hard for me to say myself. Based on what I've seen from the trailer and the timing of this film's release and the first reactions on Twitter and the fact that it's a Damien Chazelle film and the fact that the Academy loves Margot Robbie, I currently do have her in my 5 picks. I don't think she's a lock, but I think she could get it. I haven't seen the performance, so I may change my mind once I've seen Babylon, but at the moment I think she does have the goods to get a nomination, but I don't think she's a lock. She's had 2 previous nominations before, Best Actress for I, Tonya in 2018, and 1 for Supporting Actress for Bombshell in 2020. Will Babylon be her 3rd? Let me know in the comment section below. As for that 5th slot, there's any number of actresses that it could go to. Naomi Ackie is like the last potential surprise in this category because we haven't seen her film yet, and I can't bet against her yet because she is playing Whitney Houston in a biopic which is written by Anthony McCarten, who has a very good track record of getting the lead actors of his screenplays nominations. Eddie Redmayne, Gary Oldman, and Rami Malek. They all won Oscars for the screenplays that Anthony McCarten wrote, so I can't rule Naomi Ackie out at this moment. Michelle Williams, sorry, until I see some definitive precursor nominations for her as a leading actress, I'm not putting her in my 5. I refuse to. I'll do it once I see some evidence of it, but for now, she's not in my 5, guys. Sorry. Viola Davis. I can see her getting a SAG nomination, but the Oscars, I'm not so sure about that. I'd love to see it happen because this is so different to what we usually see Viola Davis do. I had Ana de Armas in my last predictions video, but I've since taken her out because I've actually now watched Blonde and I hated it. I will say I loved Ana de Armas' performance in the movie, but the movie itself, it was a real turnoff. The film is just very exploitative and abusive towards Marilyn Monroe, and I just don't think the Academy are going to want to celebrate that. Olivia Colman for Empire of Light. This is a film that I can see the Academy getting behind, even though the buzz and hype for it fizzled out really quickly. The Empire of Light is now arriving at a good time for people to now catch it and be fresh in their minds. It's coming to the USA December 9th, and it's coming to UK cinemas early January. It's a movie that celebrates movies, so it's very much Academy catnip. Plus, it's Olivia Colman. She gets nominated for all the awards these days, but is it a case of where we've seen too much of Olivia Colman at the Oscars recently? This would be like her 4th nomination in 5 years, and the Academy might think, all right, we've given Olivia Colman her flowers and plenty of noms, let's give the spotlight to someone else for a change. Zoe Kazan, sorry, I don't see it happening. Tang Wei is the person I'm manifesting an Oscar nomination for. I don't think it's going to happen, but she is so deserving. Jennifer Lawrence gave a quietly powerful performance in a quietly powerful film, but sadly Causeway just hasn't grabbed a whole lot of attention. It's not impossible. This would be Jennifer Lawrence's 5th Oscar nomination and her first one since Joy in 2016. Taylor Russell, I don't think it's going to happen, but it's someone I would like to see nominated. Sadly, she's in a genre film. Even though her performance is absolutely deserving, the Academy's track record for nominating performances in genre films is few and far between. She did get the Indie Spirit and Gotham nominations for lead actress. That was nice to see, but it's a very different ballgame with the indie awards and, you know, the big hitters like the Oscars. I'd also love to see Emma Thompson get a nomination. She hasn't had a nom in decades, but don't think it's gonna happen. Maybe a BAFTA nom, but Oscar nom seems very unlikely. So yeah, those are my 5 for Best Actress at the moment. What are you guys predicting for this category? All right, Best Actor. So we've definitely had some developments in the Best Actor race. I still think it is a 3-way race between Brendan Fraser for The Whale, Austin Butler for Elvis, and Colin Farrell for The Banshees of Inisherin. In my last Oscar prediction video, I was saying that Brendan Fraser seemed like the outright frontrunner, but some stuff has happened these past 2 months, and he definitely doesn't have the comfortable advantage that he had when first reactions to The Whale came out. He's definitely still a contender, but it's not a guaranteed win for him, which in a sense is a good thing because now we have an actual race. The reason that Brendan Fraser is not as secure of a frontrunner as he was is because the campaign for The Whale has been kind of disastrous. There's been a severe lack of marketing for this film. There's also been a bit of backlash to the film now that people have seen it and saying that is Brendan Fraser the right actor to play an overweight character and also a gay character. And also a lot of people just aren't enjoying The Whale. The one thing that everyone seems to agree on unanimously is the quality of Brendan Fraser's performance. But I still do have Brendan Fraser as my #1 pick. I just feel like it's such a box checker performance for the Academy Awards that he will go on to win it. It's just the race is going to be a bit more up and down, I think, because first of all, Colin Farrell won Best Actor for the Volpe Cup at Venice and at the New York Film Critics Circle. But also, Austin Butler now is having a very strong campaign from Warner Brothers because Elvis is like the only film that Warner Brothers has in the Oscars race this year. So they're really putting all their time, energy, and resources into a good campaign for Elvis for Best Picture and Austin Butler for Best Actor. And in all honesty, Austin Butler as Elvis is a very Academy bait type role. It's a very showy, very big performance of a very famous historical figure from the entertainment industry, okay? It also ticks a lot of boxes. So yeah, Austin Butler and Colin Farrell and Brendan Fraser are all kind of even in a sense at the moment. They all have like positives and negatives to their situations that they're in, but I've still gone for Brendan Fraser. Brendan Fraser was one of those victims of the Hollywood machine which chewed him up and spit him back out, and to see him come back and such an emotionally charged and powerful performance that is making audiences cry left, right, and center. It's just one of those, go for broke performances, and, to see him come back and be embraced by the public and the industry so warmly, it'll make his victory on Oscar night all the more sweeter. Austin Butler could do a Rami Malek and win for Elvis. It's not impossible. The only thing that's kind of holding Austin Butler back is, well, a lack of, precursor wins so far, but also he's not really the typical right age for a Best Actor winner. Usually an actor is a bit more seasoned, they're in their 40s or 50s, whereas Austin Butler's only 31, he's still quite young, but then again, Rami Malek and Eddie Redmayne were in their 30s when they won, whereas Colin Farrell and Brendan Fraser are more the typical age where someone would win Best Actor. As for Colin Farrell, he's had a tremendous year, with After Yang and The Batman and The Banshees, so he's just been everywhere this year, so people have seen his face, have seen the versatility of all these different performances, and maybe they'll think, let's go with him for The Banshees. He's also in the film, out of those three, which seems the most likely contender for a Best Picture win. I don't think The Whale or Elvis is a legit contender for Best Picture, whereas The Banshees actually could win it. It's not who I'm putting my money on at the moment, but it could happen. And because it's a legit contender for Best Picture, or most likely will be, people will be seeking it out to watch it, and most likely Colin Farrell's going to be the name at top of their list, when they're thinking of which movies have I seen, which ones did I like the most. And it could be Colin Farrell. It's a nice fusion of comedy and tragedy. So it could be Colin Farrell. Honestly, the race is so even between those three at the moment. We'll wait and see when we get some more precursor noms and wins. But yeah, I still have Brendan Fraser at the moment as my #1 pick. As for the other two slots in this category, I genuinely don't know. We've got the reactions to Babylon, so when it comes to Diego Calva, I've not really been hearing a whole lot of noise for him. He had some buzz in the first reactions, but it's kind of fizzled out. I still hear people talking about Margot Robbie, but I haven't really heard people talking about Diego Calva all that much. But maybe that's because not a whole lot of people have seen the film yet. He's in my 5, but he's not a lock for me at the moment. I'll wait until I've seen the film. Also, the more time that passes, the less confident I feel about Hugh Jackman getting a nomination for The Son. People really are forgetting about that film, and does that mean Hugh Jackman's gonna get forgotten about as well? Let's see if he gets the Golden Globe nomination. But if Jackman doesn't get the Oscar nomination, then we might have a situation where Best Actor is comprised of all first-time nominees, which I actually really do want to see happen. I do think we need to keep an eye on Paul Mescal for Aftersun. He's been quietly gaining steam the past few weeks because Aftersun is catching fire right now. Like, people are hearing about it and seeking it out and watching it and falling in love with it, and consequently falling in love with Paul Mescal for his devastating performance. It's not what I think is like a traditional Academy bait type performance. Like, there's not a lot of big, grand, emotional moments for him. It's definitely more of an internalized, subdued, and naturalistic performance. But I would love to see him get a nomination for this performance. It's such a tender performance, and quite frankly, the Academy doesn't honor enough performances which are more subtextual than they are about big, emotional, grand displays, you know? I am a little bit reluctant to put him in my 5 at the moment, but I have popped him in there because it's a little bit wishful thinking. It might be a little bit of a fantasy pick, but I do think it could happen. And as someone who recently met Paul Mescal and turned into a giddy schoolgirl around him, yeah, I'm a little bit in love with him. I really want to see him get an Oscar nomination for Aftersun, okay? Sue me. And he also did get the Indie Spirit nom as well. Bill Nighy actually has a pretty passionate fan base. I've seen a lot of people do have him in their predicted 5. And he's never had an Oscar nomination before either. But I don't know, with Living, it's one of those films which is a perfectly pleasant watch whilst you're watching it, but it didn't really stay with me. Like, Bill Nighy's performance is excellent, and if he does get the Oscar nomination, it's very much deserved. But I'm just not sure if the film and the performance will stay with voters in their minds is all. Jeremy Pope should be, by all means, the name on everybody's lips when it comes to discussing Best Actor this year, but frustratingly, he's not getting the love that he deserves. His performance of a gay closeted man who joins the Marines in order to win the approval of his homophobic mom is astoundingly good. And it's such a box-checking performance. I don't actually understand why more people aren't talking about Jeremy Pope. I'm glad he got the Indie Spirit nom. Same goes for his on-screen mother, Gabrielle Union. Congrats to both of them. But I'm still apprehensive about putting him in my 5 because there doesn't seem to be any discussion surrounding him. He deserves better. Justice for Pope. He's another one where I am manifesting a nomination for him. But what about Tom Cruise for Top Gun Maverick? Top Gun Maverick is going to get its fair share of Oscar nominations, and with the last 2 slots for Best Actor being quite open, the Academy might just be in a frame of mind where they go, you know what, Tom Cruise has had an iconic career, he hasn't had an Oscar nomination in a good while, and he gives a very charming, very watchable performance in Top Gun Maverick in a role which he's revisited, one of his most popular roles, one of his most beloved roles, and we could just give him, you know, a nomination for it to celebrate his career in general, you know? Like, kind of like giving Sylvester Stallone a nomination for Creed and playing Rocky Balboa again. So, yeah, there's definitely a sentimental angle at play here, so I would not be all that surprised. I mean, I would be surprised if Tom Cruise's name was called out on Oscars morning, but at the same time, I'd be like, it kind of makes sense. I don't think Tom Cruise will be nominated a whole lot during this awards season. Maybe a Golden Globe, but I think if he was to surprise anywhere, it would be the Oscars. Best Supporting Actress. Not too much has changed about this category since the last predictions vid. However, since Universal have announced that they've decided to submit Carey Mulligan for Leading Actress rather than Supporting Actress, category fraud, excuse me, I've had to take out the true supporting performances from She Said, which I think deserve an Oscar nomination, that being Jennifer Eel and Samantha Morton. I do think that Carey Mulligan will get the nomination for Best Supporting Actress. I'm not saying it's undeserved, I'm just saying she's in the wrong category. So she's taking the spot of someone who's far more legitimate for this category, which bothers me. At Ezra Cabrera asked me on Twitter, how do you feel about some of the category fraud discourse this year? It seems like an issue every year, but it seems especially rampant now. I do think the category fraud has hit a new peak level this year. I think Carey Mulligan in Supporting Actress is just a blatant disregard of what a performing performance actually is. Like, she supports Zoe Kazan in the same way that Zoe Kazan supports her, but they are co-leads in the film. That bothers me. Tuzo Mbedu has been submitted for supporting, but she is also a leading character in The Woman King, in my opinion. And also, Michelle Williams for The Fabelmans. It just seems like the studios will do anything they can to ensure they get a win somewhere. Anyway, back to Best Supporting Actress.
A lot of people are saying now that Carey Mulligan is gonna win this award now because she's got a lot of screen time and it's a leading performance masquerading as a supporting performance, kind of like Mahershala Ali in Green Book and Alicia Vikander in The Danish Girl. I think she will get the nomination, but I don't think she can win it because I think people are so aware of this category fraud. I think that this category is quite wide open still. There isn't that one performance where everyone collectively agrees on is the surefire bet. I'm still keeping Kerry Condon as my prediction for The Banshees of Inisherin. I think Kerry Condon is going to quietly sneak up with this performance. It is a terrific display of dramatic acting and comedic acting fused into one. She's also the only substantial female supporting performance in her film. It's not like she's Claire Foy and Jessie Buckley in Women Talking where they might split votes. And I think she's probably the Banshee's best bet to win an acting Oscar. I think Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson will get nominations, but I feel less confident about them winning. Plus, Banshees is a film which I can see getting a lot of Oscar nominations, but I'm not sure where it can win yet. Like, there's definitely a chance it could win Best Original Screenplay for Mark McDonagh, but more on that later. But I've spotted that there's a pattern of the last decade where Best Supporting Actress can actually be a consolation prize of sorts for a much beloved movie, but only walks away with one Oscar, and that's Best Supporting Actress. Look at last year with Ariana DeBose for West Side Story. She was the only win for West Side Story. The year before that, Ya Jung-yoon was the only win for Minari. The year before that, Laura Dern, the only win for Marriage Story. The year before that, Regina King, the only win for Beale Street Could Talk. The year before that, Alison Janney was the only win for I, Tonya. The year before that, Viola Davis was the only win for Fences. The year before that, Alicia Vikander was the only win for The Danish Girl. And the year before that, Patricia Arquette was the only win for Boyhood. It's like the Academy knew these were all good movies and they wanted to honour them somewhere, and Best Supporting Actress was like the easiest option for them. And I could see the same thing happening for Kerry Condon with The Banshees of Inisherin. She could be the film's big win of the night. So if Kerry Condon does end up being the only win for Banshees, it will be the 9th consecutive year where Best Supporting Actress is the sole win for that film. As for other people that we need to keep an eye on in this category, Jamie Lee Curtis actually for Everything Everywhere All at Once. There's a lot of people gunning for her to get her first ever Oscar nomination. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Jamie Lee Curtis has never had an Oscar nom. So yeah, there's a lot of love and passion for her to get one, kind of like as a career nomination. Her over Stephanie Hsu, also in Everything Everywhere All at Once, and maybe she might have a better chance than Stephanie Hsu. But yeah, could it happen? Maybe. She did show up in the Indie Spirit noms. And Nina Hoss for Tar is another one that I'm keeping a watchful eye on because she got the Indie Spirit and the Gotham nominations, but she could coattail off the success of Cate Blanchett's Best Actress nomination, and she could be like Jessie Buckley coattailing off Olivia Colman last year. So yeah, it definitely could happen. Best Supporting Actor. I've actually changed things up a little bit here. In my last predictions vid, I had Judd Hirsch as my predicted winner. However, the love for Ke Huy Quan in Everything Everywhere All at Once is inescapable. He's at the top of everyone's predictions on Cold Derby, Next Best Picture, and so many of my Oscar pundit friends. He's got the comeback kid narrative. He's also the emotional center of Everything Everywhere All at Once. He also delivers the most quoted line of cinema this year, which you've seen plastered all over film Twitter. And he just won Best Supporting Performance at the Gotham Awards and Best Supporting Actor at the New York Film Critics Circle. So there is enough empirical evidence for me to think Ke Huy Quan is actually happening this year. I would love to see him win an Oscar for this. Like, he is who I want to see win this year. But part of me was so reluctant to put him at my #1 spot for ages because I just thought, again, the Academy wasn't going to get behind a genre performance where Ke Huy Quan has a fight with bad guys with a fanny pack. It's so silly to think that the Academy would go for that. It's kind of flipped. I actually thought that Brendan Fraser was the closest to a lock for Best Actor, but now it's the opposite. It's the other comeback kid. Like, Brendan Fraser's having a comeback, but Ke Huy Quan's having a comeback as well. And now he seems like the most likely the most likely person to be a lock for an acting category. So yeah, I've listened to public opinion on this one, and I have finally caved to the peer pressure, and I've got Ke Huy Quan as my current predicted winner for Best Supporting Actor. But I will say this, even though I do have him as my current predicted winner, and I think he can do it, there's still a little clawing part of me that is scared that it might not happen. Touch wood, knock on wood, but like, what if we woke up to the Oscar nominations and Ke Huy Quan's name wasn't called out? Like, there's a little part of me that thinks the genre bias of the Academy just would not nominate Ke Huy Quan. Is the goofy, lovable dad from Everything Ever All at Once, the fanny pack whipping father. Is he gonna win the Oscar? There's just still a little bit of doubt in me, which I'm trying to squelch, but yeah, it's just hard for me to shake. Does anyone else feel that way about this? Like, is it just me? Like, does everyone else think, yeah, he's definitely got this? Or is there someone out there that actually thinks, maybe not, maybe he won't get the nomination, maybe he won't win? I don't know, but I don't know who else could beat him. That's the thing. Like, Judd Hirsch could be the seasoned professional of the industry who is championed by the Academy because he's had such a long, prosperous and fruitful career. And The Fabelmans is arriving at a good time, and Hirsch gives a short but zealous performance as Uncle Boris. The Academy voters might be thinking, oh, he's had a great career, let's celebrate him now whilst we can. Judd Hirsch is 87 years old, which means if he did win, he would be the oldest ever winner of Best Supporting Actor, beating Christopher Plummer, who currently holds the record at 82 for when he won for Beginners. But Judd Hirsch would not be the oldest ever nominee of Best Supporting Actor. That honor actually goes to Christopher Plummer, who got nominated at age 88 for All the Money in the World. Also, a fun little side note, Judd Hirsch's birthday is the 15th of March, which is 3 days after the 95th Academy Awards. Wouldn't that be a wonderful early birthday present for him? I'm not saying that's the reason why he should win, I'm just pointing it out. As for other nominees, I do feel pretty confident about Brendan Gleeson getting his first ever nom. With Banshees, you can't have Colin Farrell without Brendan Gleeson and vice versa. Like, it really is a double act plot, so it would be weird to nominate one and not the other. I will say though, I do think I've seen more passion for Barry Keoghan getting a Best Supporting Actor nom for Banshees over Brendan Gleeson. I would love to see him get a nomination alongside Brendan Gleeson. A lot of people are predicting multiple nominations for Supporting Actor for The Fabelmans, like Paul Dano or Seth Rogen alongside Judd Hirsch potentially, but maybe it's Banshees where we might see a double nom for supporting. However, I do feel Brendan Gleeson has a stronger chance of getting a nomination over Barry Keoghan because Brendan Gleeson does have a more substantial role. It is essentially a co-lead. There's definitely an argument to be made about category fraud here as well. But yeah, Gleeson has more screen time than Keoghan, and Banshees is likely to get 3 acting nominations. Will the Academy be over-generous and give them 4 acting nominations like with The Power of the Dog last year? It's definitely not impossible because there is a lot of love for Banshees. And you can also make the argument that Woody Harrelson and Sam Rockwell were both nominated for supporting for Martin McDonagh's previous film, 3 Billboards. But for now, I still have Barry Keoghan just on the outside of my nominations. I've bumped Mark Rylance up a few spots, but he's still not in my top 5. Weirdly, his performance as a creepy cannibal is striking more of a chord with voters than his other oddball performance last year in Don't Look Up. But yeah, he's already got the Indie Spirit and the Gotham nominations. Will his nomination streak continue? Again, it's a very different kettle of fish. You know, the indie awards shows compared to the big hitters like the Oscars and BAFTAs. And with the Academy's history of nominating performances in genre films being notoriously low, I haven't got him in my 5. Best Original Screenplay. Not too much change for me. I still think this is a 3-way race between The Banshees of Inisherin, Everything Everywhere, and The Fabelmans. I have taken Babylon out and replaced it with Tar. That's solely based on the first reactions to Babylon and the fact that Todd Field did win Best Screenplay at the Gotham Awards. I've been underestimating Tar. I thought it would be a bit too pretentious and cold for some voters, but there's clearly support for it. And Todd Field typically does get screenplay nominations over directing nominations at the Oscars, so he is one that I want to keep an eye on. It could be Everything Everywhere All at Once because it is probably the most original screenplay of 2022, and we've seen at the Academy Awards they have gravitated more towards cooler, creative picks in the past few decades, like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, Her, Parasite, Promising Young Woman, Get Out. And I could see Everything Everywhere All at Once following in this trend. It could be Banshees. It won Best Screenplay at Venice. Also, it's Martin McDonagh. The Academy loves Martin McDonagh's screenplays. They've nominated him twice before for screenplays with In Bruges and 3 Billboards. Still hasn't won yet for writing. He has won an Oscar for short film, but never for writing. So they might think third time lucky for him. I could also see Martin McDonagh getting a lot of the votes from like European Oscar voters. And it could be The Fabelmans because Belfast won this last year. It was kind of like an overdue win for Kenneth Branagh. It was like the best place to award him, and the Academy might feel that way about Tony Kushner. I still have Bros at number 5, and I know a lot of you are thinking, really?
But I think this could be a pleasant surprise on Oscars morning. I'm not dense, I know it's very likely it could miss here, but Bros was such a crowd pleaser, and I feel like a lot of people will have seen it, and because it is kind of one of those, monumental movies, I know it's a rom-com, but it's like a big studio gay rom-com, kind of one of the first of its kind, and it did make an impact culturally, even if it didn't make a big impact to the box office. So there might be enough support from the LGBTQ members of the Academy thinking, yeah, let's honor it. It's still a progressive pick and an important milestone. Why not give it the screenplay nomination? It is genuinely one of the funniest, sharpest scripts of the year. If Bros is going to get any Oscar nominations, its best chances are in Best Original Screenplay and Best Song. And if Bros does get goose egged, it's going to be one of those movies where in a few years' time everyone will be going, why did the Academy not nominate this? Like Booksmart or The Farewell. Others to keep an eye on include Charlotte Wells for Aftersun. Even though I think the film itself is more an achievement in direction than writing, she could surprise here with a screenplay nom. Ruben Östlund for Triangle of Sadness, the Palme d'Or winner this year, has been a big crowd pleaser, and the Academy does like a satire. And Decision to Leave, not likely, but not impossible. Best Adapted Screenplay, no major changes here really. I'm still predicting that Sarah Polley is gonna win this for Women Talking, and I'm feeling pretty confident about Glass Onion and She Said getting nominations. The Whale, however, I am feeling a little bit iffy about because what I mentioned previously with the campaign for The Whale being so scattershot. But I still can't ignore the fact the impact that this film has on its audience. Like, it just leaves people in floods of tears. And I think that fact alone will come into play when they fill in their ballots. So I do have The Whale in there for now, but I'm keeping an eye on it. At Josie Potus asks, with adapted screenplay being so weak, is it possible that Pinocchio or Bones and All can squeeze in? If so, which other contenders can it kick out? Love this question because I love both of those movies. Honestly, I would not be upset if Bones and All or Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio took the place of The Whale. I want it to be David Kajenik for Bones and All because he adapted a story that seemed unadaptable. It's one of those stories that can work on paper but could have been disastrous on screen. But he made it work. And to be fair, I do think Luca Guadagnino deserves a lot of the credit for, bringing it to life. But the beauty of Bones and All is that it's a film that can be read in so many different ways. There is so much subtext, and everyone I speak to comes away from it like thinking it means a different thing. It's a movie that actually prompts discussion and debate and analysis, and that's why it should be getting a nomination for Best Adapted Screenplay, because it works on so many different levels. But again, that Academy bias is what's holding it back. It could actually be Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, which is why I've put it on my 5th spot for now. It's the most texturized and adult adaptation of Pinocchio I've ever seen. So it could actually make it in, and I really want it to, which is why it's at my 5th spot, but there is a little bit of doubt that it's just a fantasy pick and it's not actually gonna happen. We could just end up seeing something like White Noise make it in because it's Noah Baumbach. I really don't want it to be that film because it didn't leave much of an impact on me, and to be fair, White Noise is just one of those movies that kind of came and went. I don't really hear people discussing it anymore. So personally, I would love to see Bones and All get in here over Pinocchio, but I still would rather see Bones and All and Pinocchio get in here over The Whale and White Noise. But I'm not actually expecting both of them to get in here, and potentially neither of them will. Best costume design. A lot of people are going with Babylon now, and that's fine. I've got it in my 5 at the moment, but until I've seen the film with my own eyes, I'm a little reluctant to put it at number 1 just yet, because I have seen some great movies with some amazing costumes in this year, so once I've seen Babylon, I might change my mind to it. But for now, I'm still sticking with Catherine Martin for Elvis, because Catherine Martin has won this category twice before, won for Moulin Rouge and The Great Gatsby. Could she continue with Elvis, who is, a fashion icon in many sense? She had a lot of fun, brings, the king of rock and roll's looks to life in such, glorious fashion. So yeah, I could see it happening again for her. I'm not married to her winning it yet. I could change my mind once I've seen Babylon. But yeah, for now I could see Elvis taking this. I think Ruthie Carter will probably get the nomination for Wakanda Forever. She actually won for the previous Black Panther film. The reason she's not at number 1 though is because I think some of the costumes in Wakanda Forever are a little bit hit or miss. Like, some of them are absolutely stun. And then there's a few where I just wasn't crazy about. Particularly the Midnight Angel costumes, which were actually described as ugly in the film itself. But yes, I do think some of the costumes aren't as visually pleasing as some of the others. It's not consistently good across the board in Wakanda Forever, but there is still some amazing costume work on display in it. I'm feeling a little bit more confident on The Woman King maybe getting a nomination here. That film has a lot of love, and it did make a lot of money, so I could see them wanting to honor it somewhere, and costume design might be the best place for it, or maybe production design. But yeah, there's been a lot of great costume work this year. Everything Everywhere, Women Talking, Fabelmans, Glass Onion, Corsage, Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris, Don't Worry Darling, Blonde. I haven't actually seen Chevalier, but I'm still keeping it in my 5 for now just because of what I've seen from that movie, and that looks like a movie where the Academy would be all over it for costumes. Production design. This is a category which is all over the place for me. I've still not seen Babylon yet. However, I do have it at my number 1, solely based off what I've seen from the trailer and people's reactions. And the reason why I feel confident putting Babylon at number 1 for production design and not costumes is because Babylon fits the bill of what the Academy typically likes to honor with production design. When I saw the trailer, it was giving me vibes of Mank and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And the Academy likes to celebrate movies about the industry that they're in when it comes to production design, and especially when it's classic and period and all that. And this movie takes you through the decades of Hollywood. So yeah, that's why I've got Babylon at number 1 here. But honestly, the 5 that I've got now, it honestly would not shock me if it doesn't look anything like this on Oscars morning. A lot of people are putting Avatar: The Way of Water in now because the first Avatar movie did win production design. Well, technically it was art direction back in 2010, but yeah, it makes sense to predict Avatar repeating that success. Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio has some of the most detailed set design of the entire year, and I would love to see it get a nomination for production design. But part of me is reluctant to put it in my 5 because the Academy has never nominated an animated film for production design. Could Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio be the first film to do it? Maybe. Quite frankly, The Batman deserves a nomination for production design because the city of Gotham is a character in that film, and the same can actually be said about the town of Victory in Don't Worry Darling. Very different movies, those two films, but they both have locations and settings which play a large factor in crafting the tone and atmosphere of those films, and they both deserve production design nominations, but I don't think either of them will get in. I really hope that I'm wrong, but I just don't see it happening. The Fabelmans has some pretty nifty sets, particularly the sets that Sammy has when he's filming his short movies within the movie, but they didn't really dazzle me in the same way that some of the other films did on this list, like Bardo or Glass Onion or The Woman King. Even Empire of Light and White Noise had moments where I was in awe of the sets, but nobody's really talking about those movies. So yeah, production design is one I'm really scratching my head on at the moment. Cinematography. This is a tough one, but I'm sticking with Babylon for now. Last time Linus Sandgren was nominated was for La La Land, which he actually won for. And the look of Babylon, again, just from what I've seen in the trailer, is orgasmic. But I have still seen a lot of great movies with a lot of great cinematography this year. Problem is, I haven't seen the one film where I've gone, oh yes, that's the one. There is an argument to be made for Avatar: The Way of Water because the previous Avatar film also won for cinematography back then, and this film really has upped the ante visually. Like, the stuff that James Cameron is doing underwater just looks stunning. This is groundbreaking cinematography, so yes, they might want to acknowledge this next stage in cinematography history. Roger Deakins has been on a hot streak this past decade, and even if Empire of Light misses in most of the categories, I'm not sure Roger Deakins would, because the cinematography in Empire of Light is really beautiful. And there's so many great movies this year with jaw-dropping cinematography like The Batman, Bardo, Banshees of Inisherin, All Quiet on the Western Front, and Top Gun Maverick. They're all very deserving, but not all of them can make it in, and I think Top Gun Maverick is just gonna have a lot of technical nominations because of how beloved that film is, so I'll put it in at number 5 for now. If I had it my way, Hoyt van Hoytma would definitely be getting a nomination for Nope, just for the scope and ambition of what he pulls off in Nope. Jay Rosen asked me on Twitter, what do you think is going to be the big snub of this year? I think it's going to be Nope. I don't think it's going to get a single nomination. I think it's probably going to be goose-egged. At New Guy Review 101 asks me on Twitter, if you were to pick a horror movie to get an award/nomination this year, which one and which category would you pick? I would love to see Bones and All get a nomination for Best Adapted Screenplay, or Taylor Russell for Best Actress, or I would love to see Nope get a nomination for cinematography or sound. And then there's Greg Fraser, who just won his first cinematography Oscar this year for Dune. He also did a little movie called The Batman, which I genuinely think deserves a nomination for cinematography. At Flixploitation asked me on Twitter, do you think that movies that come out at the beginning of the year have a huge disadvantage come Oscar time? To an extent, yes, which is why I think The Batman might have a harder time getting nominations because it came out so early in the year. And Greg Fraser does deserve a nomination for that cinematography in that. But to answer your question, to an extent I do agree that movies at the beginning of the year do have a harder time, securing nominations at the Oscars, but it really does depend on the movie itself, the reception to the film, and also the campaign that the studio and the backers have behind it. Like, it's no coincidence why we see more movies that debut in the fall festival film circuit showing up in Best Picture. However, there's always exceptions to the rule, like Grand Budapest Hotel. That was an early movie, and that still made it into Best Picture. But there's also a bunch of movies from this year which came out quite early, which I am predicting to be key players, like Everything Everywhere All at Once, Top Gun Maverick, and even Elvis to an extent. So yes, while I do think movies that come out in the fall and winter season have a better chance of being Oscar nominated, the films that come out early in the year can still make it in, depending on whether there's a passionate campaign for it and enough love and all that. I mean, Coda was a very early release. That was a Sundance movie last year. But it didn't really gain steam until later in the year when people started watching it to find out what Troy Kotz's performance was all about. And then more people fell in love with it and it really caught fire. So yeah, I do think movies that released early in the year can still make an impact at the Oscars. But yes, cinematography is a category where I could see a pick and mix of any of the films that I've listed here, both in my predictions and on the outskirts. It still feels like a free-for-all in this category, in my opinion. Best editing! I'm still sticking with my 5 for now. I don't think many people are taking Decision to Leave as seriously as I am. Like, ever since I saw Decision to Leave at Cannes, I've been saying that this is one of the best edited films of the year. The way each scene is stitched into the next is the work of a poet. At the very least, I think this film deserves a nomination, and I think it could get it. But I'm still keeping Paul Rogers at the top for Everything Everywhere All at Once. I might change my mind once we get the Eddie nominations, and some people will be saying that Top Gun Maverick will win for Best Editing because it is a flashy film. It's most likely a Best Picture contender, which means lots of people will be watching it. It's also in a similar vein of editing to Ford v Ferrari, and it's also got the edge for winning Best Sound. And typically at the Oscars, Best Editing and Best Sound go hand in hand. But I'm staying with Everything Everywhere All at Once for now because of the sheer ambition of the project. The film juggles so many different genres and could have easily unraveled in the wrong hands. Paul Rogers is the reason the film holds together so well. It really is a marvelous display of editing, so yeah, I'm sticking with it for now. Best makeup and hairstyling. No changes here. I'm happy with my 5. I still think this is the whales to lose. Best visual effects. I mean, it's Avatar, Way of Water, no doubt. The rest of the 4 slots don't really matter that much because everybody already knows that no one is going to be Avatar. I will say I would like to see Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio nab a spot for visual effects. Also, I think it would be very satisfying to see Everything Everywhere All at Once get a nomination for visual effects when that film only had 7 visual effects artists working on it, comparatively to Multiverse of Madness, which had over 600 visual effects artists working on that film, and it has a similar concept as well, with the multiverse, and also has a Marvel budget. It would just be nice to see the little guys competing against, the heavy hitters. Best sound. Not much change here. A lot of people are saying that it might actually go to Babylon now over Top Gun Maverick, but until I've seen the film, I'm keeping my predictions the way that they are. Best score. Again, if I had it my way, Michael Giacchino would be winning next year for the score that he made for The Batman. Simple, powerful, grand, imposing, atmospheric, and memorable. I'm not even a massive fan of The Batman. I thought it was a really good movie, but I wasn't in love with it. But
no score has stayed with me as much as Michael Giacchino's score has for The Batman this year. It deserves a nomination, but the sad truth is, it probably will be snubbed. Honestly, I'm not sure who the lead in this category even is yet. Babylon, I've heard, has a dazzling, jazzy score from Justin Hurwitz. So yeah, that wouldn't surprise me if that became the frontrunner. And while I did enjoy the score that John Williams made for The Fabelmans, it's not one of his pieces that has stayed with me. But again, 2023 might be one of those years where the Academy is feeling sentimental and will want to acknowledge two of cinema's, iconic, legendary figures, Steven Spielberg and John Williams. Neither of them has won in a while, so maybe yeah. Hilda Guanadattir has two great scores this year for Tar and Women Talking. I do think Women Talking has a better chance of being acknowledged over Tar, which is ironic because Tar is literally about a female composer. But a double nomination isn't out of the question for Hilda Guanadattir. We had a double nomination for Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross just 2 years ago when they had Soul and Mank in the same year and then subsequently won for Soul. And speaking of Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, they produced the score for Empire of Light, which I'm not too sure about. The music that they've created for Empire of Light is a genuine highlight of the film, but has the film made enough of an impression for them to get a nomination for that score? I put Alexander Desplat in for his score for Pinocchio, kind of because it was in places giving me vibes of the wistful score he made for The Shape of Water, which, as you know, did win back in 2018. So yeah, Alexander Desplat would not surprise me if he showed up here. But perhaps we could see Terence Blanchard get a nomination for The Woman King. He did manage to get a nomination for Da 5 Bloods. Or Rob Simonson for the swelling emotional notes that happen at the end of The Whale, bringing us all to tears. Or Carter Burwell for his folkish-infused score in Banshees of Inisherin. Yeah, this is a bit of a challenging category this year. Who are you guys predicting for Best Score? Best Original Song. Now, this is a category I've changed up significantly since the last predictions vid. A lot has happened in the past few months. A lot of songs have come out of the woodwork recently. And it looks like we might have another Battle of the Pop Stars in this category next year. This year we had Beyonce versus Billie Eilish, with Billie Eilish winning for her Bond song No Time to Die. And with 2023, it looks like it could be a race between Lady Gaga and Rihanna. At Tracy879 asks me on Twitter, does Rihanna's song have a shot at winning Original Song, or is the Gaga song too strong to be beaten? I do think that Rihanna's song has made the race for Best Song a lot more interesting now. Like, Gaga isn't as surefire bet as she was just a few months ago. There is a lot working for Rihanna because this is her first song in like 6 years, and it's a proper tearjerker because it is meant as a tribute to the late great Chadwick Boseman. So yeah, there's definitely a sentimentality angle to vote for this song over Top Gun Maverick. But then again, Chadwick Boseman was beaten by Anthony Hopkins in the Best Actor race, so it's definitely not, a guarantee. And it has shot up a lot of people's predictions. A lot of people are predicting it to win. I'm currently holding my ground with Lady Gaga's Hold My Hand. And I know she won Best Song just a few years ago for Shallow and A Star Is Born, but there's something about her song Hold My Hand which feels very timeless to me. They're both really good songs and they're both very well implemented into their respective films. Like, I'm not going to be upset if either one of them wins. Personally, between the two of them, I would like to see Rihanna win because she is like my pop queen. Yeah, and I know the comment section is going to be on fire now, which is like, Gaga's not your queen, Luke? Oh, gasp! Seriously, I'm more of a Rihanna stan than I am a Gaga stan. I'm not a little monster, peeps. Also, Wakanda Forever's director, Ryan Coogler, has a writing credit on Lift Me Up, so it would be strange to see Ryan Coogler win his first Oscar for songwriting and not directing or producing. It would be kind of like when Stanley Kubrick won for visual effects for 2001: A Space Odyssey instead of winning for directing that film. But despite all that, I'm still giving the edge to Hold My Hand. And the reason for that is because Top Gun Maverick is more likely to be nominated for Best Picture. I think more people will be watching Top Gun Maverick and that song is going to be heard more. That's the reason why it's at number 1 now. I might change my mind when we see who wins the Golden Globe. I've still got RRR in here for Natu Natu. But also, as I'm filming this video, when I went to go pee, I noticed on Twitter that The Weeknd is releasing a song for the new Avatar film. And listen to this. Sounds pretty epic. We don't know what the song actually sounds like fully just yet, but
Who knows, The Weeknd could be another pop star that has a nice late surge, and maybe he could actually be a real contender. Who knows? I'll know by the next predictions video if I think he is a contender. But yeah, The Weeknd is one to keep an eye out for Avatar: The Way of Water. I've got Chow Papa in for Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. Don't think it's a lock, but I think it's a likely contender. As for that 5th spot, I really want to see Bros get a nomination for the song Love Is Not Love. You know, the whole Garth Brooks inspired love song, which is both funny and sentimental at the end of Bros. I've seen Bros 3 times, and every single time that scene makes me cry because of that song. And yeah, if I had it my way, that is what I would pick to win Best Song, but it's not gonna be Bros, sadly. I know it's not gonna be. It's gonna go to like Gaga or Rihanna most likely. But that's who I would pick. If I was a voter, I would vote for Love Is Not Love. Yeah, because I'm a massive gay, and that's the song I had the most emotional response to out of any movie this year. So that's why I would get my vote. Best Animated Feature. We have a new frontrunner, and it is Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. We were waiting to see if Strange World would be a threat. It's not. But yeah, the fact that there was a trite Pinocchio live action adaptation on Disney Plus this year might have actually helped Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio be the frontrunner, because when you put those movies side by side, it's a real clear example of a movie made for financial reasons and a movie made with heart and care and soul. And rewarding a film like that is the reason why the Academy Awards actually mean something. You can tell how much Guillermo del Toro cared about making this film. It took him so many years to get it made, and he dedicated to both his parents, so you know just how personal it is. It's also a family film with adult themes. It's really accessible to all ages. Normally, I wouldn't bet against Disney or Pixar in this category, but the Academy loves Guillermo del Toro, and given how its biggest competition, Turning Red, came out so much earlier in the year, I think Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio does have a bit of an edge. It's not a lock just yet, but I do think it is the one to beat. I've taken Strange World out and replaced it with Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, which I did not think would happen, but I just watched Puss in Boots: The Last Wish a few days ago, and this film knocked my socks off. I was not expecting it to be this good. It's so full of laughs and dazzling animation and a surprising amount of wisdom as well. It genuinely is one of the best animated films of 2022, and I did not think I would be saying that when I went in to watch it. It's one of those occasions where it's really nice to be proven wrong. I am a little bit iffy on Marcel the Shell with Shoes On and Lightyear. Marcel the Shell with Shoes On because it's one of those films where I think some people will go, is it an animated film? Should I give it the nomination? It is eligible, by the way. I'm just worried some voters might think, is this an animated film? It is. Give it the nomination, guys. And Lightyear because the reception to it was a bit underwhelming. However, I'm kind of banking on the nostalgia of the Buzz Lightyear character and the brand recognition of like Toy Story to give people enough reason to vote for it. And it is Pixar, and I liked Lightyear a lot, so I think it actually might show up here. Documentary feature. Not too much change here, and admittedly that's because I still haven't seen a whole lot of the documentaries, but I am working on it. I still have All the Beauty and the Bloodshed as my #1 pick. Navalny is definitely picking up steam, one that I still need to watch, and I'm keen to watch, and I've got my eye on it. Goodnight Oppie is now my predicted 5. It's one of those films that's getting a lot of buzz for its visual effects, and I do think it will get into doc feature. And I also still need to see Fire of Love and Descendants, so I'm just kind of guessing with this category at the moment. I've got Moonage Daydream in my 5 because I really like that film, and I thought more people would, but I've not seen a whole lot of people putting it in their 5, so I might take it out in the next prediction vid, see how we go. Best International Feature. I'm still sticking with the 5 from my previous prediction video. It currently feels like this is a race between Decision to Leave and All Quiet on the Western Front, but at the London Film Festival, I finally got to watch Close, and this movie was so beautiful, so heartfelt and tender and devastating. And I think it's that little movie that could sneak up, but we need to see how it plays, you know, like during the critic circles and all that. So, but yeah, Close is one I'm keeping an eye on. But yeah, I do think at the moment it's still a race between Decision to Leave and All Quiet on the Western Front. I'm still sticking with Decision to Leave. It's a film that I think many people have been sleeping on this season. Best Director. Now, I know everybody is going Spielberg, and it makes sense. Diamond milestone movie about his childhood, so it's very personal, and it's extremely well directed and a major crowd pleaser. And I will be happy if it is him, because I love Steven Spielberg, and he is so overdue for a third Best Director Oscar. But I don't want to commit to the Steven Spielberg Express just yet. He seems like the obvious pick, but I don't see him as a lock just yet. Again, I still think people are sleeping on Park Chan-wook for Decision to Leave, because when I first watched this film at Cannes this year, the first thing I said to the Oscar expert who was sitting next to me was, damn, that was some of the best direction I've seen all year, and I bet the Academy goes for it. And Park Chan-wook has never been nominated for Best Director at the Oscars, which is a crime in itself because he did Oldboy and The Handmaiden. And Decision to Leave might be the film that gets him that first nomination because it's probably Park Chan-wook's most accessible film that he's made. It's this very classic, stylish, mystery slash thriller slash neo-noir. It's very Hitchcocky, and it's something that I can definitely see the Academy liking. And Park Chan-wook could be the international filmmaker who surprises in Best Director this year. He could be this year's Ryosaki Hamaguchi for Drive My Car, or Thomas Vinterberg for Another Round, or Paweł Pawlikowski for Cold War. But also there is one more international director that I think we do need to keep an eye on now, and that is SS Rajamouli, who directed RRR. He just won Best Director at the New York Film Critics Circle. Now this might just be a one-off, but there is a lot of love for RRR, and given that it wasn't India's submission for Best International Feature, and they've really, gone for it with their campaign variants, we might actually see a surprise with SS Rajamouli. The thing with the Director's Branch is that it's actually one of the most reliable categories at the Oscars to honor international nominees. Without Park Chan-wook or SS Rajamouli, it's just a bunch of American and Canadian filmmakers. I genuinely think that we are going to see either Park Chan-wook or SS Rajamouli show up in the directing category. A lot of the winners of Best Director this past decade have gone to international directors. The Three Amigos, Chloe Zhao, Bong Joon-ho, and Ang Lee. So yeah, I am still keeping Park Chan-wook as my predicted winner for now. You can call me crazy or stupid, but I think at the very least he gets a nomination. And I would love to see him win, and I don't think that Steven Spielberg has it in the bag yet. I'm still feeling pretty confident that Sarah Polley's gonna be in here for Women Talking, and fairly confident about Damien Chazelle for Babylon, but I will be more assured after I've seen Babylon, or maybe I'll be less assured and he won't be in my next prediction video. But that fifth spot is anyone's guess, really. In my last predictions video, I had Martin McDonagh for Banshees, and who knows, maybe it will be him, but you can make a solid argument for Daniels at Everything Everywhere All at Once, Todd Field for Tar, and even Joseph Kosinski for Top Gun Maverick. But just for fun, for now, I've popped James Cameron in the fifth spot for Avatar: The Way of Water, which might be silly and foolish, but it's kind of hard to bet against Cameron because he really is such a visionary filmmaker. And I have to give him credit for pushing cinema in directions where no one else is taking the medium. So while a sci-fi sequel does seem unlikely, and I probably will end up changing that prediction, if anyone can do it, it is James Cameron. Again, I can see it going so many different directions. Who are you predicting for Best Director? And last but not least, we have Best Picture. I've still got The Fabelmans at number 1. It's got all the ingredients of a typical Best Picture winner. However, we have seen in recent years that the Academy has sidestepped the cliched movie-loving movies that we expect them to pick for Best Picture and go with something a little alternative, usually an indie movie. We saw them not give it to La La Land and go with Moonlight instead. And just last year, the early frontrunner was Belfast, but they ended up giving it to Coda. So there's definitely a pathway for a little movie like Everything Everywhere All at Once to win. I'm still reluctant to put Everything Everywhere at my number 1 prediction, partly because I don't want to jinx it, but I'll feel more confident about putting Everything Everywhere at my number 1 spot if it does well at some precursors like the SAGs and Golden Globes and the Producers Guild Awards. If it wins some of those, then I'll feel more confident about putting it number 1. And now it's in my top 3. But it's off to a good start. It won Best Feature Film at the Gotham Awards. At Robert B51707688 asks me on Twitter, how many nominations do you think Everything Everywhere All at Once can get maximum, and how many minimum? Ooh. Currently, with my predictions video, I've got it getting 5 nominations: Best Picture, Best Actress, Best Supporting Actor, Best Original Screenplay, and Best Visual Effects. So my minimum at the moment is 5, but I can see an outcome where it's nominated for directing, sound, makeup, costumes. There's even potential for 2 Best Supporting Actress nominations for Jamie Lee Curtis and Stephanie Hsu, and maybe cinematography, but I think that's very slim. So maximum will be 12, but I don't see Everything Everywhere getting 12 nominations. My feeling is it's going to be somewhere between 5 and 11. At Jiao_Scarpa3 asks, the blockbuster sequel dilemma. Which movie amongst Glass Onion, Top Gun Maverick, Avatar 2, Black Panther Wakanda Forever will be more successful at the Oscars? How many and which will be nominated? This question I think ties into Best Picture quite nicely. My answer is all will get at least 1 nomination, but for Best Picture, I'm only seeing 2 potentially getting in. Out of those 4, I think the one that will get the most nominations is Top Gun Maverick, which I think will get a Best Picture nomination and a bunch of technicals like sound, cinematography, editing, and song. Avatar 2 I think will get some technical nominations and potentially a Best Picture nomination, but at the moment I don't have it in my 10. Black Panther Wakanda Forever will get some nominations, not as many as the first film did, but could show up in a few technical categories like costume design, production design, maybe score, and I think its best chance of winning is for Best Song with Rihanna's Lift Me Up, but I don't think that's a gimme. As for Glass Onion, no wins whatsoever, but I do think it's going to get into Best Adapted Screenplay. And I would personally love to see it in production design or costumes, but I don't think it's going to happen. But yeah, realistically, out of all the big blockbustery sequels that we've got this year, I think Top Gun Maverick is the only one that will get in for Best Picture. In fact, I think that Top Gun Maverick is a lock for Best Picture now. In my last predictions video, I wasn't sure, I wanted to wait and see, but now it feels blatantly obvious it's going to get in for Best Picture. In terms of the triumphs of 2022, the 2 films that come to mind are Everything Everywhere All at Once and Top Gun Maverick. Those are the movies that people actually went to the cinema to see. They got bums in seats, and the Oscars would be ridiculously dumb not to nominate those 2 films for Best Picture. You're worried about the ratings of the Oscars? Then actually nominate some of the films that people paid to see and loved watching this year. Top Gun Maverick and Everything Everywhere All at Once, they brought in the crowds, they brought in the money, they were both big box office successes, and yeah, they're also critically regarded and beloved by audiences. So why would they not nominate these movies? It would be dumb for them not to. So yeah, it's a no-brainer. Banshees I'm still very confident on and could actually be a potential winner. Like, it's a film that I can definitely see doing well on a preferential ballot. Women Talking I'm still very confident will get the Best Picture nomination, but I'm less confident about it winning. I think it does have a shot, but it's not got as good of a shot as Banshees or Everything Everywhere. Babylon I'm a little bit nervous about. I've still got it in my predictions, but after the polarizing first reactions, I don't think it can win, but I do think it can get a nomination, but it's not a guarantee. It's a big, bold, audacious film about Hollywood and cinema through the decades. Like, that's Academy catnip. Plus, Chazelle does seem like a likely contender for Best Director, and there usually is some overlap with Director and Best Picture. The last 4 that I've got in my predictions, I'm a little iffy on all of them. She Said didn't do all that well at the box office, but I can see it being a film that the Academy nominates because of the subject matter. It's a movie about an issue which directly correlates to the Academy itself, so I do think they will nominate it. The Whale has had a very messy start to its campaign. Like, they've definitely made some missteps in the marketing for this film. But the reason I still have it in my 10 is because Brendan Fraser seems like an assured pick for Best Actor, and there is a correlation between Best Actor performances and their films being nominated for Best Picture, which is the reason why I still got it in here, which is why we also need to keep an eye on Elvis. Warner Brothers is promoting the shit out of this movie, and it's definitely having a resurge in popularity with all the For Your Consideration screenings that they've put on. And if Austin Butler is going to be a frontrunner for Best Actor, then the same rule applies for him as it does for Brendan Fraser, and Best Picture is now the question for Elvis, even though the reviews for it were middling. But I wouldn't put it past the Academy to nominate an opulent, crowd-pleasing musical biopic, Elvis. They already did it with Bohemian Rhapsody. I still don't have Elvis in my 10, but we'll see where I stand in my next predictions video. Decision to Leave, I'm still seeing as the international film to surprise, but that could also be RRR. And then there's Tar, which does leave some viewers feeling a little cold after they've watched it, but it is doing well in the critics groups, and I have bumped off Empire of Light for Tar. I'm having difficulty believing that we're gonna get 3 movies that celebrate the magic of the movies in Best Picture this year, but I'm not ruling out Empire of Light getting a Best Picture nomination yet. It is arriving at the right time, and I can see Academy voters connecting with it. Perhaps even more so than Babylon, because it probably is a safer pick between the two. But yeah, I'm not predicting all 3 of those to get into Best Picture, but we shall see. Others to keep an eye on, besides Elvis, are Aftersun, The Woman King, Triangle of Sadness, and Avatar: The Way of Water. At Connor Lorenz asked me on Twitter, thoughts on Del Toro's, I think he means Del Toro's, Pinocchio getting into the Best Picture lineup. I would love to see this happen. Spoiler alert, it's gonna be in my top 10 video of the year. I am a little reluctant to put it in Best Picture at the moment, not because it's not deserving, but just because of Academy bias and the fact that it's an animated film, and we only have had 3 animated movies being nominated for Best Picture. I don't think it's out of the realms of possibility, but yeah, the fact that it's animated, the fact that it's another retelling of Pinocchio, which has been done to death, it's just like, will the Academy go for it? I don't know, but having said that, last year Guillermo del Toro got into Best Picture for Nightmare Alley, which I think is a significantly less impressive film than what he pulled off in Pinocchio. It's less personal as well. So, yeah, I don't know why they wouldn't nominate him for Best Picture, but yeah, I really want to put him in, but yeah, I'm just having a little doubt that they will. Like, I'm crossing my fingers and limbs and hoping, they will nominate Pinocchio, because yes, animation deserves to be acknowledged in Best Picture as well. But yeah, those are my thoughts on Pinocchio getting into Best Picture. But generally, those are all my thoughts on Best Picture at the moment as well, guys, because we are done! But what do you guys think? Pop your predictions in the comment section below. Hit the little like button if you like the vid. It helps me out massively. For more film, TV, and Oscars-related content, don't forget to click subscribe. And if you want to stay up to date with all my Oscar predictions, follow me on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, TikTok, all those links in the video description down below. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching. For more things related to movies, TV, the Oscars, and popcorn culture, I'm Luke Hearfield, and I'll see you next time.